biggest thing is, I would say that our relationship with our fellow students and professors. And in addition, I think we had a lot of time to do various other things. We could play, we could, beyond studies also. So what I find is that the fact that I was able to get an all-round education, not only limited to studies, is something that stands out. Not only that, this was my first experience of staying outside a metro city. I belong to Delhi, was born and brought up in Delhi. First few days at Varanasi, I was wondering where I had dropped in. But after that particular period, today, if I'm given an option, I would always go to Varanasi and stay for a few days, not doing anything, generally moving around. So Varanasi is something that I remember. I am a foodie, so I remember the fooding joints. Some of them are still in existence. Kerala Cafe, for example, right? And then I think general experience, all in all, we could go to other faculties at that point of time. We were still a part of BHU. So many of us did various things. Some of them did other languages. I, for 1 year, did music. Then there were various other things. So there were many things that we could do. We could indulge in our hobbies as well as study. I went into my first job, which was at BHL. That is where I realized that I could look at a problem, understand the problem, and find a solution to it. Despite the fact that I would not rate myself very high on engineering theoretical knowledge. A lot of, for example, one of the subjects that we did, I'm also an alumnus of mechanical engineering. So production engineering was one of my subjects, which I hated, particularly because the droning voice in which we were taught, I always went to sleep. But my first 10 years of my working life, I was only doing production. And production means hardcore metal cutting, writing processes for manufacturing and all of that, including also shaping of tools when needed. So grinding of tools, getting it ground at the tool room when some job had stopped. And I ran some of the machines with my own hands. These were CNC machines. So programming the CNC machine, running it, and then proving a program, norming it, all of that I did. So my engineering, actually, I started imbibing or internalizing it when I was in BHL. And that is where I realized that it was not only just the study that I did, but also the fact that I had other facets, including interaction with people. That helped me a great lot. Slightly different thought process. I mean, just to touch upon this, that we started the first alumni association of IIT BHU in Delhi, right? And almost at the same time that the Delhi body got registered, also the global body got registered. They got registered almost within 2-3 days of each other, right? So the journey of alumni started at that point of time. It is almost 20 years, 2002 to 2022, that I have been involved. Initially, our thought was that for alumni to support the institute, all that we needed to do was basically collect money and give it to the institute. Now, while that may be a necessity, we also needed to understand, and this is something which I came to realize as I was working with the alumni and the institute, that the institute, being a government-funded body, had some limitations on how it could accept and utilize money. In certain cases, it was better that we could take up a project with the institute's permission, execute it, spend our money on that, and hand it back to the institute. That was something which worked. But otherwise, a general thought process of giving money at the institute and assuming that it would help is something that I found is a faulty notion. It doesn't work. Because institute has its own challenges. Obviously, the scale of challenges and the resources required to mitigate those challenges are not what all the alumni can support at any point of time. So there are certain things which the institute can do better, which the institute should be allowed to do. There are certain things where alumni can definitely help. And for example, getting into tie-ups with foreign universities is something that alumni can do, because we have people who are in the topmost universities across the globe, right? And we can make that happen. And these are people, particularly people of my age group. They are at decision-making levels. Similarly, we have our alumni who are in top engineering, software, and other organizations. So anything that has to do with the domain connectivity is something that alumni can do very well. Then there would be certain things which the alumni can do, which could be, for example, creating a corpus for a purpose. One of the purposes that we have been finding from the institute is to put up chairs. And putting up chairs means we need to create an endowment, the interest of which runs the chair. The principal does not get touched, right? So that is something that we can do. Other things are, most of us, when we did our studies, we had a blinkered vision. When we left school, none of us had an idea as to what we really wanted to do. It was understood that people who were intelligent from the science background would either go to medical or they would go to engineering. And if somebody did not go to either of them, then they would find out what else was available. Today, you are spoiled for all kinds of options. Second, when we came into the institute, we never got to understand why engineering is important to any society. That engineers are problem solvers is something that I came to realize after having worked in the field. And that was almost after 20 years of working, right? There was always a notion, but the notion could be put to words today. I could not have put it in the same words about 20 years back, right? So one of the first things that I think we need to do while orienting a student who comes in would be to talk about what engineering is and why it is important for people to take up engineering as a profession. That would help many people to understand what is it that they should look forward to, and what is it that is expected of them, and what is it that they expect or they can expect, right? Second is that any education, engineering included, is not just studying in classes and doing practicals. There is a lot of secondary learning which happens, which happens, for example, by way of participating in NCC and what is that, NSS, and similar other ventures. For example, you guys do some social work through the institute, and there are bodies for that, right? So that is one way. Then organizing events. Organizing events gives you a practically free training on how to run an organization, right? Doing practicals. We thought practical was another boring thing on top of a boring engineering subject, right? But if we could get the context of engineering, and we could, if I were to say that what would I do again, I would love somebody giving me a problem and telling me to solve it using what I've learned. That would have really grounded what I learned, and I would have appreciated it far more. Maybe would have been a better engineer also. So there are various things like this which I think even today we could do, because I think most of our students who enter any college or any institution for that matter, for any kind of stream, really do not know why they have come in there. Some of them think because they have come there since there is no other choice. And some of them think because that is the in thing or the thing to be done because their friends are going there. But many of them do not even realize what is it that they are contributing towards. So that is one thing. Another point that I think we should do is that engineering is a practice. A practice means there is one part of theory which you need to understand to be able to practice, and then practicing it so that the theory gets internalized. Unfortunately, engineering is taught in most of our institutions, including IITs, almost like a science or an art subject. So you do theory, you do practical, and that's about it. That's not it. we need to be able to look at and touch real life problems and figure out how we should solve them and where all does engineering help us. That is what actually is what we are supposed to be learning, and only then we will be able to contribute. So I don't know whether it answers your question, but this is what I have in terms of the learning experience that I had in the institute. And having interacted with other institutes also, I would say that this is possibly true for other IITs as well as the non-IIT education institutions as well. Your circle. So go beyond your boundaries. If you are uncomfortable talking to people, please be uncomfortable and talk to people, because that is one of the biggest skills that you need to imbibe. Talking to people, if you don't talk to people, you do not even know what to do in any given situation. And there are many a times when you actually need to have other people supporting you. If you do not talk, you don't get that support at all, right? So communicating, interacting, and networking is one thing that I would suggest. Second thing is try and get involved in as many of these free opportunities that one has to become a professional. Organizing events is one of them, right? Being a part of the training and placement body of your institute is another of them, because you are put in a front position to talk to the organizations who are going to take you. You get to know what is it that they want and why do they want that. You are the first line which can give that information to the students and prepare them. And not only that, you are the ones who can ensure that the experience which the recruiters have when they come to our institute, and that the students have when they meet the recruiters, and what the faculty, professors, and admin have when everything goes fine. That is absolutely something that you can do. So this is the second thing. And I found, as a part of PanIIT chairman, whenever we did an event as a part of PanIIT, we invited students to work with us, not work for us. And every student that worked with us in any of the events that we did, we have issued an internship certificate, because that is actually an internship where you are taking responsibility for what you're doing. You're doing many things which you've never done before. For example, last year we did a global conference, which was the first time that we as PanIIT India did that, and we did not have any experience, right? It took us almost about 6 months to get the theme and structure of the conference right, and the other things that we wanted. It was a virtual conference. And then we wanted to deliver. We found that we needed a lot of support to manage each of the sessions, whether it is a part of the conference, whether it is a part of the hackathon, or whether it was a part of the startup showcase. And believe you me, when we invited students, many students came in, and we had a situation where the session was starting, the moderator was not there. The student took responsibility, initiated the session, moderated the session till the moderator came in, handed it over, closed the session, and ensured that it was an absolutely smooth experience. Nobody from the audience got to know that there was a hitch-up, right? And when you do that, at the end of it, you actually feel better about yourself, because you know that you have done something which you have never attempted before. So doing all these things also is a part of the education and a part of the opportunity which you should avail of. If I were to do it, I would actually be a part of all the events that I could see. I did passively at that point of time. There were other people who took the initiative. I said, when there were so many people, what will I do there? That's why I did not go. But now I would say that if I were given a chance again to relive that life, I would actually jump in the first and say, what is it that I do? In many of the cases, I have done things which nobody else wanted to do. For example, when I did the first event as a part of PanIIT, it was in 2019. After about 3 years, we were doing the first event. It was a conclave on AI organized at IIT Delhi. So the chairman of the event called me up and said, Debashish, I want you to be with us. I said, fine. I would also like to do that because I've never done a conclave before. So I said, fine, I am the chairman and I will decide what is to be done, whatever, and I can meet people, manage people and all that, right? I have taken one more person who will look at the admin side of it. So I will look at the program and everything else. Other person will look at the admin. We are both not very good at money. So you be the sponsorship head. Now, I am one person who always runs for sponsorship because collecting money is one of the most difficult things to do. But when they said, I said, okay, I also never done, but let's do that. Right? Thankfully, we were able to not only reach let us say comfortable number. We wanted to figure out, we wanted to raise about 3 crores. We were able to raise slightly more than 2 crores. We had a margin of about 75 lakhs, right? So that was it. The next event, again, I did the same thing, which was at Bangalore. We did it at IISc. Again, it was a face-to-face event where I looked after the sponsorship and I was also the co-chairman of the event, right? Then the third event happened in 2021, where I was the general secretary of PanIIT and I led the complete event. And what do I mean by led? I created a team and let my team do the job. My job was to only ensure that they remained on track. So keep defining and making them aware of the objectives and everything else they did. So my success came because I had a team which would deliver success. So that was another learning that I had, that I do not need to do everything on my own, but I can have a team which, when tied up with a common objective, can deliver. And in my tenure as chairman of PanIIT, that is one thing which I'm trying to do. When we did the 2021 event, we were able to talk to other countries and we got 4 country bodies to work with us to develop sessions and deliver those sessions as a plan. That is why we said, as the sun moves, our sessions also move. We started with Australia on the day 1. The session moved to India. From India, it moved to UK. From UK, it came back to India. Next day, it moved to USA, started with USA, came back to India, and we closed there. And from the point of start, where I initiated the session and handed over to the chairman, Kekadhar, at that point of time, till the time I delivered my closing address, I don't know how time passed, 36 hours. And we did not know how it went. Till one day before that, we had all kinds of goof-ups, including the fact that the session timings that we had finalized and the session timings that were displayed, they were completely off. So our infrastructure team actually sat down throughout the night, corrected that. And once we started, there was no stopping. So all of these are, I think, experiences that help us grow as professionals and as leaders. And these are free leadership trainings where you don't have any risk. You are guided by senior people who have done this. You are not in an organization which tries to find your faults. It allows you to run freely and learn, fall and pick yourself up. So these are some of the things that I think one should try, which goes beyond classroom studies. So studies plus allows you to run freely and learn, fall and pick yourself up. So these are some of the things that I think one should try, which goes beyond classroom studies. So studies plus the non-curricular or extracurricular activities. So there are 2 questions and these 2 require different answers. First part is engagement of alumni in the institute's growth, right? Block. And why it is a big block is, so far the institute, and I'm not talking about IIT BHU, I'm talking about the IITs and many other non-IIT institutions, including non-science, non-STEM institutions as well, right? they have been brought up as educational institutions, and the student went out, and after that nobody knew what had happened. This was the case for almost about I would say till about 1970s, 1980s for the older institutions like our institute. The IITs which started in late 50s and early 60s actually formed alumni associations almost at the time that they were born, because there were some people who thought that there should be an alumni body. But at that point of time, the thought was to keep them together so that there is a bond of nostalgia which connects them. Now, as we've moved along, the institutes have moved from various things. The challenges have grown, their funds have got cut down because of various other challenges, and they really need some intervention to figure out how they can at least make up the shortfall in their revenue, which otherwise came from grants. Right? Now, for that to happen, we need to be able to do many things which have to do with real life problem solving. Right? It could be that we take up a particular stream and work with industries who are trying to find new products or who are trying to solve some problems and do business in them, obviously, right? It could be something that is more social. For example, during the tenure of the last director, Professor Rajiv Sangal, IIT BHU, IIT Kharagpur, and one more institute together focused on cleaning up the sewerage system or the drainage system in the city. I do not know how successful they have been, but that was one of the absolute needs of the hour. And I am sure there are similar needs, including solid waste management in most of the metro cities and even in tier 2, tier 3 cities, which need to be dealt with, right? So for the students, for the alumni to understand how they can help the institute and why they should help the institute, and for the institute to consider that the alumni and the industry are a part of the same ecosystem where they belong. While they bring the theoretical background, the industry brings the practical background, and the alumni are the bridge between the two. Once we get into a collaboration between these three bodies, the industry will be very happy to pay the institute for work done on their behalf, because it costs them far less than if they do it in their own labs. Not only that, here they have the added advantage of having access to the field where those problems would, the solutions would be applied. So as the institute, we need to understand what is it, where do we want to reach, what is our objective, what is it that we need to do to meet that objective, then figure out what role do the alumni have to play in that, and then reach out to alumni. At this point of time, we are directly talking to each other without having a clue of what is in the middle. Right? It is getting clear because there are many people who are taking that initiative and doing that, but this needs to be institutionalized. Right? Now, the IIT BHU Alumni Foundation is a body which is whose mandate is to create corpuses. Right? And corpuses are extremely essential and not very easy to create, because there is a lot of donation which is involved, and person who is donating also needs to understand why he or she is donating. The industry may want to donate something, but the industry would do a quid pro quo. That means if we donate something, what do we get out of it? So if we know where we want to reach, then we can define what needs to be done and who can do what, and based on that, we reach out to all those stakeholders. Right? And as a part of that, the IIT BHU Alumni Foundation plays a part of creating resources which are also extremely essential.